Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you ever thought you needed more stuff to be happy, well, I've got news for you. It's the other way around. The less stuff, physical and mental and emotional, the better. This is chapter 4 of the Tao Te Ching, and this chapter is called Empty. Let us begin. The Tao is empty, but in practice need never be filled. The Tao is fathomless, like the ancestor of the myriad things. Smooth edges, loosen the tangles, soften the light, merge with the dust. The Tao is crystalline and still. It seems to have been here forever. I know not whose child it is. It seems to have been before the emperors of old. And I'm also going to read the River Master's commentary here from the John Minford version. Here it is. The Tao is fathomless and unknowable, like water in a deep abyss. The Tao of non-action loosens tangled roots, softens vision, softens the light, merges with the dust, with the multitude, not standing aloof. Be crystalline like the Tao. Be calm. Endure. I am the Tao. I was here before the emperors of old, before heaven and earth. I have been here forever, in stillness, not contending. Well, that one is an interesting one, and as they all are. I mean, this book is, I've said in the past few chapters, it's just infinite amount of wisdom in here. But this one really it's quite simple in nature. If you really think about it, it's pointing to the same things that the rest of the chapters have pointed to so far, which is less is more. And the more we have in our lives, the more drama, the more stuff, the more people, the more just drama in general, like just being busy, being caught up in the day-to-day life. In fact, someone I know in my life who I'm very close to, she tends to always say, I have to do something, I have to do this, I have to do that. And I have to remind her sometimes that it is a choice, that you don't have to do anything. And that being a sovereign being allows you that opportunity to choose the things you're going to focus on and the stuff you're going to, deal with. And just because somebody's asking you to do something doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it. So it's, and that's a challenging bit, right? Because a lot of times in our lives, we're brought up in a way where we are pleasing others or doing what authority figures have told us to do, and we forget sometimes that we have a choice, that we can not have to do what others are telling us to do necessarily, especially if it goes against who we're trying to be or who we are, right? If we're trying to live a life of peace and joy and love, and we have somebody in our lives who's thrives on turmoil, causes drama, drains us, right? We have the sovereign ability to hold that person and say, no, I'm not going to allow that. And it's not always easy to do that. And then there's obviously sometimes with family members and people we've been in our lives a long time, it's hard to draw those boundaries, but if you want peace and joy and love and you want to live a good life, sometimes you have to have strong boundaries. In fact, I think boundaries are critical to that, because it's really easy to let yourself be taken advantage of by folks, and it can be troublesome. So I would say early in my life, I didn't have very good boundaries. I was a young boy who tended to people pleasing. I was definitely an emotional kid. Would cry at the drop of a hat, and always felt like I was trying to thought I was like a diplomat, trying to keep the peace, avoid confrontation. Although in my later years, now in some of the business roles I've taken on, it's a little bit different. I'm having to be a little more assertive and not be so afraid of confrontation. And although in some of those tough situations, it can feel uncomfortable, it's almost getting comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling. But without boundaries, I wouldn't have the life I have today, which I live in a beautiful home in the state of Montana. I have a good job and a good life that is basically on my terms. I don't fear or worry so much about what other people think anymore. Hence why I can do this, because I think if I was concerned about what other people thought, I probably couldn't do what I'm doing right now. And, also part of that process has been a slow dissolution of ego mindset, and realizing that I had to let go of this small-minded thinking. And it still creeps up every now and again. Don't get me wrong. I'm not completely dissolved in the ego. The ego, I mean, it's not all bad. I think if you listen to a lot of folks online, they make it sound like ego's terrible and having an ego is the worst thing. But if you think about why the ego is there to protect you in the world, right? It's there to give you a sense of self and how you what your relationship is with the world around you. So it's critically important. It's not like it's not important. It's just, if you let it direct your entire life, you will live a life that is relatively unfulfilled, with little boundaries, and just, again, living outside of that peace. And I guess in some ways you have to ask yourself, what is it you want in your life? Is it peace? Is it joy? Is it love? Do you want that? And if you prioritize that, what's the sacrifice you're going to need to make to get to let that be? Or to have that peace, and sometimes it is going to be, this ego dissolution, shadow work. What shadow work is, going into your trauma, usually childhood trauma, and working through it, acknowledging it, and integrating it ultimately, which means to basically come through it. And there's some process there. The biggest piece of that, though, is to go into the emotion of that trauma and feel it and experience it, and don't fight it. And because if you fight your emotions, you can they sink down into your physical being, and they hold you back from your true potential, because they become roadblocks to peace and joy and love. So full internal integration requires shadow work. And so while you can drop the act of ego and experience peace, love, and joy right here, right now, in presence and in this present moment, a lot of times what's holding us back is this unconscious energy, again, stored from childhood, usually. So, hey, so that's chapter 4, empty, and it speaks in simple terms, but if you really think about the process you have to go through in order to achieve an emptying of the vessel, it's not easy. As I've said in several of these chapters, it's for me, this has been a lifelong process, spiraling upward towards ego dissolution, boundaries, peace, love, and joy. So that's chapter 4. Thanks for listening. I hope if this resonates with you, please like and subscribe. Again, this is the Boundless Sovereign YouTube channel. Our mission is to be able to hold the mirror up for folks so that they can see themselves clearly and truly, and they can work through their own internal dilemmas and ultimately come out as a more peaceful, better human being that can be an active contributor to the goodness in this world. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in chapter 5.